order for the Anchorage Advisory Committee. It is February 21st at 9:06 a.m. Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, everybody, please put your phone on silent. I just did. And we are officially on YouTube. That's good to know. Okay. Today in attendance, we have John, Chris, Sam, Ted, Ed, and from Town Council, Jim Adderholz, and from the town, Austin Gilchrist. And we'd go to approve the agenda. And I think this is what we had from last time. Do we need a motion for that?
Mr. Chairman, just for the record, Doug Ekman and Jim Hockett
Yes.
had called in ahead that they were going to be called out of town for business, so they had asked each have an excused absence.
They have excused absence for Doug and Jim. Okay, any changes to the agenda, or are we good with today's agenda for now?
Just correct the date, the month.
Good move. That would be February 21st.
Just a short point, Sam. Is calling Jim the proper way if you can't attend? Who would I contact if I can't attend a meeting?
I think you email Eva.
You could do Eva, the town clerk Amy Baker, or Sam or Doug or myself, and just as long as you give some heads up ahead of time, then that would warrant, and you requested an excused absence. That's usually the end of it.
That's all you need.
Yeah.
And if you're not able to physically attend, how do you get the phone number for the call-in?
That might be Eva.
I
or
think probably
Jack.
Chad or Austin would help facilitate that. And by the way, you could also let Chad or Austin know if you couldn't make it as well.
Yeah, email will suffice, or a phone call.
Yeah.
Okay.
But you guys would help facilitate the call, correct?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
And you could probably do that when you get the email from Eva with the agenda. Also in attendance is from the town, Chad Schutz. And do we have a motion to approve the previous minutes?
Law will so moved.
Moved by Ted, a second.
I second.
Any discussion, any changes? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Okay, on to public comment. During public comment, if anybody has any comments, you have up to 3 minutes to address the committee. Do we have any public comment? Anybody?
Well, do we public comment after?
There's also an opportunity at the end of the meeting if you want to do that, so be sure that.
Well, you guys, if you were going to offer a public comment, I would encourage you to do it now, because I don't see your agenda item on.
And you can do it before and after. You can do 3 minutes now, and then if you have something that we discussed that you want to talk to, you have another opportunity at the end. So you can do both if you want to do it now.
My name is Star Sherwood, and I live on Tropical Shores Way. And Kathy Greff is also a neighbor. And our concern is the proposed site for one of the 3 sites for the pump out station. As you may recall, we were heavily involved in the upland facility proposal that was about two and a half years ago. This directly affects us again. Chapel Street is, from what I understand, was one of the site locations, which is interesting because there's not a canal on Chapel Street, it's our canal on Tropical Shores Way in between Chapel. Our canal was heavily damaged by the hurricane and by the companies that took the debris out of the canal. It ripped out all of the mangroves at the end of the property that the town owns, as you well know, at the end of our canal, which directly affects Kathy because she lives at the end of the canal. This is not something that we want. This is a beautiful residential area, and again, we do not want a pump out station at the end of a residential mention. It is a home to many birds and wildlife. And if you were to go over to that canal today, you wouldn't even be able to get a boat up and down that canal because the tide is so low. And it happens a lot. So that should also be a concern. My next question is in the comments that I read that there is a pump out station at Diversified and Moss Marine. So why wouldn't the town save us millions of dollars, which I don't think we have to begin with, and rent their pump out stations with your boat? Is that an option or not an option? I don't know, but it's a thought. So we are here as neighbors and residents, longtime residents of Fort Myers Beach, to say that we don't want this at the end of our canal.
And your name again?
Star Sherwood,
Star, was it Tropical?
Tropical Shores Way.
And we don't directly answer the questions. However, if you want to stay for the report, that might be included in the town's report.
Thank you.
Any other public comment?
Do you want to know? You covered everything, I believe. Okay, very well. Okay.
Similar, you agree with
Exactly.
the same thing?
100%.
And you'll have an opportunity at the end if you want
Thank you.
to talk again about anything that they bring up. It's not a direct question and answer,
Sure.
but they might address it during the town's report.
Thank you, Sam.
Okay. Our next presentation is the Dock Sanitary Connection. Location and analysis of what they've been working on. Is that an Austin report?
Yeah, Chad's gonna go ahead and go over it. We'll
Great,
kind of
Chad.
kind of tag team it and go back and forth.
Are you ready for that now? Is now a good time?
Yes, sir.
Great.
That's fine. So we're basically going to just reiterate what we did at council a few days ago. I know this committee had asked for kind of a feasibility analysis, and we did a preliminary analysis looking at all of the town property, waterfront properties, and right-of-ways where there's opportunities to put such a facility. What we are speaking to is basically a couple of mooring areas, boat lifts for town vessels, and a peristaltic pump, which is, it's maybe 3 feet by 2 feet by 2 by 2. So we'll just get into that. I apologize for not having a projector present, but again, this presentation was given at the town council, and I can send you all the PDF with the presentation if you want to review it. So we have our mooring field. It's basically a 89 room floating hotel. We have the west mooring field that is west of the bridge, our central mooring field just east of the bridge, and then our east mooring field going out towards the Mound House. We are at 77 operating systems as of today. So 77 of the 89 are available for rental. What would you say?
We're at about 45 boats today.
Yeah, so we're at about 45. That was just, those additional systems were just green lighted at the end of January. So we're steadily building up and getting more and more bookings every day. 6 of those systems are pending U.S. Coast Guard authorizations and issues with the channel there that we're working through with the Coast Guard. And another 6 systems have obstructions from derelict vessels and debris. So those have been identified. We have a debris and bathymetric assessment that was completed by our engineers to identify those targets, and Austin is going down that list, diving those targets, retrieving what he can safely, and disposing of it. We're also working with the county sheriff marine operations to get these derelict vessels removed. It's a long process. We all want it to go quicker, but there is slow and steady work to get that done.
As you all know, Matanzas Inn is providing bath and shower, laundry amenities for our mooring field renters and a mooring area for the pump out boat. Just as a note, that is a separate $650 a month charge to moor that pump out boat at Matanzas Inn. So when we're thinking about a vessel mooring area for our town vessels somewhere else, you know, $650 times 12 months, you know, that cost can be moved around, so to speak, and I guess in a way help pay for that, or justify those costs, I guess would be the best way to say it. We also have the dinghy dock facility. I still can't tell you how amazed I am how Austin got that gangway and, you know, these temporary docks that we got from Snook Bite, you know, got them over there, got that gangway installed with very limited equipment, just ingenuity and a can-do attitude to get that temporary dock up and running. He's gotten portable water installed there, some trash disposal facilities for the mooring field folks, and we have our parking facilities at MU 1, 2, 3, and 4. It's under the bridge for the renters. Our permanent dinghy dock is still with the engineer for design, and I'm told permitting is done. So once we get that design, we can put it out for a request for our invitation to bid for the contractors to get that project going.
And will that permanent dinghy dock go under the bridge where the temporary one is?
Yes, ma'am. It'll be in the same footprint. It's basically a replacement of what we had there before. There was, we do need to work, I think, with Councilman King to talk to FDOT about what the plans are for the fishing facility under the bridge, and see what we can do. If that facility is not going to be rebuilt and is removed, we definitely need the capacity for additional dinghy dockage. Every day we're at capacity with the facility that we have, so getting additional capacity by expanding that dinghy dock footprint when that, if and when that fishing dock is removed, is something we should work towards. So today we just wanted to talk about a dockside sanitary connection and mooring facilities for our town vessels, as well as grant opportunities that are coming up very quickly with FWC and WCIND, also known as WeSend, as well as the CBA grant. All of these grants tie into these projects, and we'll get into that. So, again, the dockside sanitary connection is you have the pump out boat. You are connecting a hose. I'll let Austin knows this much better than me, stumbling
Sorry
through
about
the
that.
mechanics.
So basically, we run a pump out boat that holds 1,000 gallons in it. We go to each boat out in the mooring field, which you guys are familiar with, and basically right now we're taking on all of the marinas as well. There's no marina within the area that has a working pump out station at this time. Moss Marine does have a portable one, but it only holds about 20 gallons, so it's not efficient for the operation that they do have there. Right now, we have been using a truck to offload this waste. It pulls up in between Nervous Nellies and Matanzas Inn around noon, kicks on the pump, and runs for about an hour there and pumps out our boat. That's ran off of a gas-powered, like electric, or a gas-powered pump, which is very loud and obnoxious. So we're trying to get away from that. Pink Shell does have an operating pump out at their facility at this time. We did do a presentation, or I'm sorry, we did a short video over there which was posted that gives you kind of the a synopsis of how those pumps work, how loud they work, and then what is going on there as well. So basically what we do right now is as soon as the boat's full up to 1,000 gallons, we'll pull up to Pink Shell and hook up to their connection, and then all we do is hit a button and wait about 45 minutes and it offloads for us. The problem with using other facilities is going to be running into conflict with their services they're running as well. We do operate on our own, so we can't really abide by the scheduling of others' businesses, nor can we inflict any despair upon their businesses while we do ours as well. We do run lines across their docks and stuff like that, so we're trying to get away from using any outside businesses and be a self-sufficient running operation here for the town of Fort Myers Beach. Like I said, the pumps are pretty much low impact, low voltage, and low flow. There's very minimal impact, no smell, and nothing like that of that nature. It's all a closed system. So it takes about 45 minutes to an hour, depending on the flow rate of the pump, but it's just a quick, easy in and out operation that we have.
Chad, if I could, just to Star's question. I know the marinas aren't quite back yet, but to her question, contractually, if it could make sense for a private entity to work with us, and we could schedule it in a way that worked well for both sides?
Absolutely.
Is that still not an option?
It is an option, but it's the conflict of mechanics of what we're doing. We are using other people's equipment that is susceptible to failure, and from what I just don't want to get caught up in damaging other equipment that may fall back on the town, and we've got to cover those costs as well. So that's where I would like to have something that we contain, we maintenance, and we stay on top of, and that we can monitor at all times and making sure that it is fully operational for us.
How many times a week does this happen?
We do not like to store the boat empty, so every time we pump it out, which is once a week, basically to answer your question, the reasoning behind it is we do not like to store that boat with any waste in it.
Okay.
So as soon as the operation is complete for that day, we go and offload the boat, which we're trying to keep it at once a week to keep it economical for gas and hours and so forth.
So having said that, if we are pumping out on Mondays and just being dependent on this truck coming in on a Friday, that boat is sitting with
A bunch of crap.
a substantial amount of black water.
Yeah.
It's just a liability.
Yes,
Something we'd like to avoid.
And to go on to that, the truck hasn't been able to make it a number of times due to traffic and scheduling errors. So it just puts us in a bind, and we're not able to pump out when we start relying on other companies to service our vessel.
So we put it into a truck, and then the truck puts it into something?
Yes, the truck takes it to an offload station. We do CVA reporting, so all this stuff is documented, and we do have every invoice and every track of where that waste goes when it leaves the island.
So you've obviously looked at this, but I'll ask again, because if it's just once a week, there's no way we could even match the private sector entity's equipment and make that work in a friendly, symbiotic relationship. If we time it around that's convenient for the private entity. In other words, contractually, you don't see a way to make that work with a private entity?
That's what we're doing right now. It's just a long-term goal of what we're
Right.
trying to do.
I know the trucked in thing, but if it was with a marina,
Yeah.
longer term, when they get a little bit more stabilized, you don't see a long-term potential partnership with a private entity?
So we did have a partnership prior to the storm, which was with Diversified Yacht Services, who would let us offload. But then again, we're at the mercy of their scheduling. If those docks are full, or if there's no space for us to offload, we've got to push back, and then that hinders our operation able to pump out further. And we've ran into that a few times where we've had to hold off to pump out, and I don't know what happens to the waste when we're not pumping out. So that's where I just would like to have a facility that is manned and ran by the town.
We can make anything work.
Yeah, we make anything work.
Just our recommendation for our ideal operations. Ideally, we're in control of our own destiny. We have a facility where we pump out 100, 200, 300, 500 gallons on a Monday, maybe a Wednesday and a Friday. Each time we moor our vessel, and then we're offloading that black water. Just the law of probabilities, the law of diffusion. The more you let something sit there, the greater probability that you have of some sort of spill, leakage, etc. So having that facility to do your pump out, moor the boat, pump it out into the Lee County sewer system. It's just like flushing a toilet, no different from the house that's next door. And I have a video actually here to show you the pink shell operation. I'm not sure if y'all saw that, but is there anybody who has not seen that video that would like to?
Yeah.
So we'll play it, and again, this is available on I think the town's
So this
social.
Peristaltic pump, as you can see, it doesn't really put out that many decibels. This is full operation right now. It slows down and it's even quieter when it's pumping. This one here is probably about a 30 amp going into a nice 4 to 3 inch storm line pumping that. But as you can see, I can clearly talk over it. There's no noise, no smell. It's all contained system with easy shut off on it as well. And that's it with it not running. So that's about the noise that you get out of the Peristaltic pump. It is a mechanical pump on mechanical rollers with a hard fixed hose that the mechanical rollers roll over and create a suction effect onto a shaft, onto the motor, which is very simple, easy to use. It's high flow, low velocity, low pressure pump. It's no different than flushing a toilet into a sewage line. So no impact to the city sewer lines.
And so this pump takes it directly from the boat?
Yes,
So
ma'am.
you
Directly from the
alleviate-
boat, directly into the sewer. It's a closed system. My worry is that people are going to see this, the operation with the truck coming in, where it's pressurized, it's, you know, it's noisy, there's an odor there, etc. It's a totally different operation, totally different setup than the peristaltic pump. So, you know, we want to get away from this truck business as soon as possible and get something that's a closed system that's not impacting businesses, not impacting our neighbors, our residents, our taxpayers. And again, this is, you know, to pump out the boat, we're talking about a half hour. And, you know, we could even, you know, if that minimal noise that is produced by the pump is an issue, you know, there's ways you can mitigate sound as well.
So we want to alleviate the risk of environmental hazard.
Yes,
We
ma'am.
want to alleviate the risk of damaging somebody else's equipment. And,
Yes.
you know, I know that we have very stringent attention to detail with the equipment that you guys have. So those are kind of the two of the risks that we're trying to mitigate. We want to get away from
That and just-
scheduling risk.
Yeah, in control of our own operations and being able to pump out when we need to pump out rather than relying on another facility that has, they may have different objectives. And as you know, we're in a small town, you know, people can be somewhat fickle sometimes, and if we, you know, we may be dependent on someone who all of a sudden is in a, you know, we're in business with people who are asking for us for, you know, development orders and things that are controversial, you know, to reduce that level of conflict of interest, I think is also worth noting.
How did you come up with the 3 locations?
We're gonna get into that just now. Yeah,
All right.
so,
One quick,
When you had, when you were pumping out to a third entity, did they charge you a fee? If they did, what was that fee?
Yeah, so the fees vary with the trucks that do come down to the island, from $375 to about $500 every time they come down. With the marinas themselves, we haven't seen any charges with the marinas.
Maybe I should have stated my question more particular. Before the hurricane, when you were using a third party like Diversified and you'd pump your boat out there, did they charge you a fee?
No fees.
yeah, I mean, that just goes to Austin's, you know, just to get, I'm sorry to keep plugging Austin, but his relationship with the community and having that rapport with the marinas, with the public, with the boaters that he's serving. I mean, you go and just cruise, you know, down Matanzas Pass and by all the boaters, and, you know, you think you're on the party barge that everybody wants to say hi to Austin. Oh, you're Austin. Oh, you know, nice to meet you, that kind of thing. And then having that rapport to go to a marina and say, hey, can we use your facility? No problem. We're here to help. You know, no charge. It goes a long way to speaking towards Austin's relationship with the community. Enough about you. So,
can you briefly say what peristatic is and is this new
peristaltic-
system?
So
Yeah.
peristaltic, it's the same motion that you have in your intestines. So muscles are squeezing it. So you have a roller that is squeezing a
hardened line.
That moves it along.
Yeah.
And all these systems have that. All these systems are
Yeah,
similar
so
to
again,
that.
It's low
method.
pressure, you know, nothing's gonna be squirting out, it's, you know, and again, it's a closed system where I mean, we were there. Austin can attest that I'm a little sensitive to smells, and you know, and these guys are pumping to multi-million-dollar yachts. These guys are not going to put up with noise They're not going to put up with smell. They're not going to put up with anything. You know, it's, you know, this is the same as a five-star facility. You know, five-star facility, the system that we're proposing is the same as this five-star facility is offering, and there was.
And that was the point I'd like to drive home, is if you ever do go past the pink shell, just take a look at the boats and the caliper of boats that pink shell takes in, and then look down. That's the pump out, right? When they step off their boat, the pump out's right there. No smell, no noise, nothing. Like you said, it wouldn't be an acceptable service if it was smelly or noisy or actually caused any impact at all.
These guys' boats cost more than houses, you know.
Yes.
So, okay, so moving on, any more questions on that? Are y'all ready to move on to our location? So, again, staff, this is a preliminary analysis, but we wanted to look at all of the town-owned and right-of-way locations where such a facility could be possible. We looked at North Tower, Bayside Park, MP4, Municipal Parking Lot 4 under the bridge, Miramar Street, the end of Miramar, where there is a boat ramp, Virginia Avenue, where there's a right-of-way that elbows into the canal, Bayview Drive, which is between Ohio and Virginia. There's a boat ramp there with an outfall as well. Delmar Avenue, where there is a observation pier / fishing pier. Chapel Street, which is the two properties behind the town hall facility, which these ladies were speaking to at public comment. The Bay Oaks Recreational Center, the Mound House facility, Hercules Drive, where there is an observation pier, Coconut Drive, where there is a ramp and an observation pier, South Tower, where we have our utilities again, and Amberjack Drive, which I believe is still a Lee County right-of-way that goes off of Estrelita just to the, I guess you would say, north of the bridge. There's a right-of-way into the waterway there, but I'm not sure if that's our right-of-way. There'd be we need to research that just to confirm, but I believe that's still Lee County right away. So, for all of these, the common denominators are, all of these are town-owned or right-of-way with waterfront access. The cons to all of them is they have a proximity to residentially zoned properties. So all of these are going to have that plus that, you know, we have some control over it, and all these have some negative where we need to work with the community to help educate and help work with them to understand, help them understand this operation and just see what's feasible with their wants and needs.
A question. Are there sewers in all these locations?
We'll get to that, but
Yeah. Go ahead.
yes, more or less, yes. But that's something that we were looking at. So with the dockside sanitation connection and town vessel mooring location analysis, we wanted to list the needs that we had for such a facility. So we want to make sure we have adequate space for the pump, which is, you know, not much, but we still needed that, as well as adequate space for a mooring area for 2 to 3 vessels to put our town vessels up on boat lifts adjacent to where we would have that sanitary connection. We wanted to have the ability to connect to the Lee County sewer system. We wanted to have the ability to power the peristaltic pump. No conflicting uses or existing facilities in the way of constructing such a facility. Space for town parking, we're talking about 1 or 2 spaces, and proximity to the mooring field. We don't want to have to burn a lot of gas and a lot of staff time to go to, you know, Lover's Key to pump out. So, again, this is a staff-only facility. We're not proposing public access, and we're not proposing any dinghy dockage or upland amenities with this facility. So with that, we applied that. I don't know, the town council, in the interest of time, didn't want to really go into the nays. They wanted to hear the yays. I'm happy to go into the nays if y'all would like to, since we have a little bit more time. But basically, most of these facilities were crossed out either because there was not sufficient space for mooring areas for 1, 2, or 3 vessels, or they're conflicting uses. Bayside Park, not an ideal spot to have a mooring area for a pump out, sewer connection, etc. Mound House, digging sewer line, again, digging a sewer line at a historical site, it can get real touchy permitting, plus you have grant conflicts. The North Tower is a pie-shaped lot. I know we had talked a lot about that. I was excited about it, really trying to push it. We went on the water side. We have 2 outfalls there, plus the riparian lines. It's like a pie shape. So whenever you put that riparian line out into the canal, you only had about 30 feet of frontage to start with, which sounds like it's enough for a boat, but then you cut with that riparian line, where you get out to that outside piling, you're starting to get into an issue, and you don't really have much flexibility there because I believe that canal is only 75 feet wide. You can only go 25% out into the navigable channel, and there's just simply not enough space there to moor a vessel without cutting into it. And then when we talk about cutting into it, you have those outfalls, and it gets real complicated real quick. So that's why we eliminated that. Again, Hercules and Coconut, Del Mar, Miramar, all with the ramps, existing observation piers, not ideal, or just no space to actually put those there. And then South Tower and Amberjack Drive being on the south end, proximity, taking the better part of an hour to get down to there and back. It's just not an ideal situation. So we were left with Virginia Avenue, which is that right-of-way that elbows into the canal there. And then we have Chapel Street behind the old town hall. Those 2 properties at the end of that canal. And then the Bay Oaks Recreational Facility has access on the canal there, where there's some right-of-way. We still need to explore who owns that right-of-way, whether that was vacated to the town or not.
Maybe you mentioned it, but can you explain to me again why under the bridge, where the current dinghy dock is, was ruled out? And that
Under the bridge, we've explored that. So you have, number one, you have limited space to actually moor a vessel. There's no, with the dinghy dock being there, there's no mooring area space. There's no space for mooring areas for the town vessel. And then you also have, when we've asked Lee County in the past, because we thought of it, it seems like an obvious solution. Sewer connection was an issue over there from, as being told us by Lee County utility staff.
Yeah, that was our number 1 pick too, was right under there. There's already a slab for the pump, everything was perfect, but Lee County, it wouldn't match up with their sewer
Where
connection.
the closest sewer would have to be Nervous Nellies, wouldn't it?
That's why they just said no, and that's why we were baffled by it. But yeah, they said there wasn't a connection down there for us to hook into.
And when you mentioned parking lot 4, is that correct?
That's
MC4, that's the
same
MP4.
thing?
That's where we have our current Harbor Master
So it's the
trailer.
same location?
Yes, sir. That's where the dinghy dock's at. That's where our temporary office is, et cetera.
At the dinghy dock, you had bathrooms.
That's across the way.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's across the way.
Yeah, just one of those things that we relied on another, but we got shut down.
When you're talking Virginia, are you talking near Estero Boulevard where that boat ramp and bay, is that a community boat ramp? Or?
So that's kind of at the head of the canal, where we're talking about.
Okay.
If you can see, this is actually at the end of the canal. So one of the pros is it's a very quick out. You have about, was it 50 or 60? Yeah, 50 feet of water frontage. There are some mangroves there. That's, that you can authorize those to be mitigated. We could cut into there to make 2 pull-ins straight into there and have some
So Virginia's just a regular, in a residential neighborhood, just a regular small lot, regular size
Well,
lot.
it's a right-of-way right now, so we would need to go through one of the cons is we'd have to go through the zoning process of vacating that right-of-way, and,
Does it look like anybody's using that right away right now?
right, but again, you have neighbor input that's gonna be there, so that's, again, with anything, there's, there's the easy and the not-so-easy cons.
Chad, it's hard to tell from the picture, but how many homes would be in the viewing vicinity of that right-of-way? Just
Like
two?
500 feet.
Within the viewing vicinity, I'd say you're getting towards about a dozen or so. I mean, if you count across the canal, there's probably about 5 or 6 right there, and then adjacent to it as well as across the street. But again, this would be staff only. We're talking about a parking spot, a couple of boat lifts, which is pretty, in conformity with all the other boat lifts that are there. So that's not really anything that's different. And
Landscaped.
And you'd build something over the pump, wouldn't you? I mean, it would have its
yeah,
own
and
little
again, if
house,
you
so
didn't
it's
know,
not.
that pump is smaller than the
Yeah.
lift stations that we see
Yeah.
around the island.
You could landscape so where you really couldn't see anything from the street that was obvious.
Sure, yeah, a hedge probably would, we would probably fence it, I mean, just
Yeah.
for security purposes, but,
And it would be used at the most 3 times a week?
well, no, it'd be used every day. We're going to moor the pump out boat there. I mean, that would be our, in order, so we don't want to have to pay $650 for, to moor it over at Matanzas Inn. We want to moor it out of the water. It would also help stop, all the bottom growth that we get, so that we're probably bottom washing and painting.
Once a month, we do bottoms, and then every about 3 to 4 months, we'll go ahead and do a coat on the bottom paint.
But you don't pump out every day, right? You
Correct.
just pump
So,
out
to your
so
point-
many times a week. So the pumping out would happen once a week, maybe a couple times a week, but the
And like you
boats
said,
would
the
be
boats,
there
3 times.
more.
Right. So we would moor it there every day. Pumping out would be after each session, which it'd be a pump out on Monday for sure, and then maybe on Wednesday and Friday for additional pump outs as needed whenever the boaters give us a call.
Chad, I know this is a broader authority question, but is there any way to offer benefit to a particular canal who welcomes this? In other words, can the town offer to dredge that canal? Are there things that we can offer that neighborhood that would be a benefit to them?
Yeah, so getting into the next one, I mean, I'm not sure if we would need to be dredged there. It does look like it's a little, but yes, to your point, dredging the canal, making sure navigation is navigable, making sure the canal is navigable, and of course, we're going to get, whatever debris out of all the canals, but I think we want to do that for all the canals, so I don't want to.
Right, but obviously this would be quicker because
This would be a priority. Whatever canal we did put it in would be navigation would be a priority for that canal, correct, for the town.
What time is the earliest that you usually start in the morning and crank up the engines and that kind of thing?
Our pump outs start at 8 o'clock on Monday morning, and then we're usually done by 1 o'clock.
And when you crank those in, those are 4-cycle, pretty quiet engines?
It's a brand new Suzuki, which you don't know what's running. Basically.
Yeah, when it's idling, you can't even hear it.
Yeah, you can't hear it running. And the pump that we have on the boat itself, is a diaphragm pump, and that's why we can't offload with that pump. It's just not, it's not made to do that.
Austin, and I'm trying not to beat a dead horse here. How long ago did you approach the county about changing the facilities at the dinghy quad?
I believe it was about 3 months ago, maybe 4 months ago.
Oh, so it's fairly recent.
Yeah.
And I just to John's point, was that an outreach was that someone in an authority with the municipality? In other words, we are a huge customer for Lee County for waste and for water, bulk water. We're one of their largest customers. So it just seems like, I wonder if could we escalate that a little bit? I wonder,
I'm sure. Yeah.
or is
Again,
it's just not physically
Well, I mean,
practical?
the sewer connection is one hurdle. The next hurdle is we have a dinghy dock that's going to be there. We permit it. That's where our dinghy dock is. Where do we moor our boat there whenever we're pumping out.
That's what I'm asking. So it's not
Keeping-
just the sewer issue that's the problem? Okay,
Correct.
There's just not enough space.
Not with the current uses.
okay.
I mean, if we want to talk about reconfiguring our operation and figuring somewhere else for the dinghy dock, which is a whole nother can of worms.
Yeah, yeah, with the configuration we have now, it's pretty packed down there. And with the dinghy swinging and the current that is exposed under there, that is the highest current area on the island. During tide change, it's the most narrowest channel on the island, so that's gonna be the highest velocity flow right there where that is. So we experience the highest current right there, and during storms and things like that, the boat being in the water there is just not appropriate. We've gotta actually either take it out to the mooring balls or bring it inland and put it on a trailer.
I agree with Austin. I kept my charter boat at Matanzas but I was on the outside. That current is so strong, you see it with the dinghies all the time. It's almost impossible to get a boat during a really flowing tide. It's almost impossible to get a boat into a small area in there. Are any of these locations provide for a perpendicular dock and lift as opposed to a parallel dock and lift?
So that's what yes. So we were proposing that. I mean, for Virginia, whenever I say cut in, we're cutting in so that we could pull in straight rather than
Gotcha.
on the outside, because that would perhaps allow us for 2 vessels rather than just only one.
Are you allowed to
Parallel.
cut? Are you allowed to cut in and redo the seawall?
It is a permittable activity, yes, sir.
Good.
You're basically dredging uplands, and they do it under houses in Marco, so I'm sure we could do it as a town. Okay, so moving on to the next one, we have Chapel Street. This is at the end, at the head of the old town hall property. These properties were purchased, this was the intent?
Yep.
These properties were purchased with the intent of constructing the facility here. So the pros is it does have proximity to the mooring field. It's a town-owned property. We also own the submerged land that's there with those properties. It has over 250 feet of waterfront, more or less, and we could use this land that was purchased with that purpose in mind, could be part of the grant match that goes towards making these grant applications more competitive. Again, it's adjacent to the old town hall property, and it's going to be, with our town hall facilities at Bay Oaks, there's a proximity to town facilities, as well as there's a lift station that's actually at the corner there that I'm being told by our utilities director that makes it a big plus. Anytime you can put it at, where there's a lift station that
Minimal plumbing to.
right, that helps out. So the cons are we will have mangrove mitigation again. All 3 of these sites have mangrove mitigation associated with them, but that's something, again, with all 3 sites, yes, we have to remove mangroves, but we can make a living shoreline after, and putting mangroves back in, either with culverts or reinstalling it to help accent the facilities and work with the facilities. And also, to Ms. Starr's point, this canal does need to be dredged. So this, part of this project would have that dredging cost associated with it. We're working with our partners at FEMA to hopefully get some funding for dredging for all the canals, but this, along with many of the other canals, need to be dredged for navigation. And to your point, so this would be, I don't know if you've seen concept plans before, but this would involve, again, excavating uplands, installing a seawall, and making a cut-in so that you can pull in and moor the boats right there in proximity to that lift station right there. And, I am confident that if you didn't know what it was and didn't know what we were doing, you still wouldn't know while we were doing it. We'd say, oh, what are those guys doing? I mean, it's
Chad, could I add a little color on this? And I'm not interested in relitigating the past, but
Sure.
just for the committee's background, the town did purchase those 2 lots with the intention of having an uplands facility. The challenge, of course, is the town purchased those 2 lots with the intention of having an uplands facility before they consulted with the neighborhood. The neighborhood weighed in loud and clear that they were strongly opposed to that, and they did it in a very appropriate way, and they were extremely engaged in the process. And the council voted to not put it there for the reasons, for the concerns of the, and I voted against it as well, for the reasons that the neighbors have talked about this morning to some extent. So I just want to give the history there. So there's a suspicion, even though this is a much lesser intrusive proposal, there's a lot of concern, there's a lot of legacy issues here. In full disclosure, I lived on Tropical Shores Way for about almost a year when we couldn't live in our condo after the storm. So I knew these folks before, and I know Star. It's a very organized neighborhood. They took some big hits as a result of the storm. They're great people, and they're going to re-engage again. And they want what's best for the community, but this is really intrusive to their neighborhood. They feel it is, and it certainly has a history there that's not helpful, given how the town purchased the property first and then asked the neighborhood second, it just wasn't communicated very well, and it just was not. I mean, the neighborhood fully engaged in the democratic process, and they were successful. So there's a legacy to it that makes this a little bit more complex. So not Chad's fault, not Austin's fault that these were all desired at higher levels, but it's just part of the history of this location. So it's just a lot more complex than it appears. It's just some history there.
But now an upland facility, that would have been the public facility.
Agreed.
That would have been dinghy docks.
It is
and,
different, yep.
You know, a lot of people. This is a more minimal usage of the site.
But there was a little loss in trust.
Yes, I totally understand that.
process,
Yep,
yep.
totally
What's the
understand.
current zoning of that entire parcel?
Yeah, that's a great point, and I should put on there another con, as we would need to.
Wasn't part of it was residential, but part of it was,
We
the
would
part
need to do
closest to town
rezoning
hall
to get
was.
it back to institutional zoning so that we could conduct town operations. And to the vice mayor's point, we have, going through those past concerns with Austin that he encountered, engaging the community is a priority of his, which is why we're doing this right, today, as well as hearing that there was a lot of pushback on, not to disparage any of our renters, but strangers in our backyard coming in facilities, docking facilities, and kind of having a permanent visitor center, for lack of a better term, in their backyards. That's why we took that part of the concept plan away. And again, just minimal boat lifts and just a sewer connection to that lift station that's already existing. And last but not least, Bay Oaks. So again, we have some right-of-way that surrounds that property, which we still need to do some homework on with our town attorney to see if that was given to us by the county, or if the county still owns that, encapsulating that Bay Oaks property. But the pros to this, again, are proximity to the mooring field. It is a town-owned property. We have over 500 feet of waterfront. There is a lift station, I believe on somewhere just right around here again, where the running the sewer line is a little bit more complicated and definitely a lot longer. I'm told it is still feasible to do it, so that was good news. So again, you have houses that would be in view of it, that would, again, not in my backyard.
The other side of Tropical Shore.
Yeah, so again, it's a commonality. No matter where you go on this island, you're going to be in proximity to residential properties, which is the obvious challenge of this project, and we're very cognizant of that. The cons, again, mangrove mitigation. We would have to vacate a right-of-way process of some zoning, perhaps some zoning issues, there is some privately owned submerged land, but if we mitigated the mangroves and made a cut in, we could potentially just put our docking facilities. The issue with submerged land is if you drive a pile into somebody else's submerged land, you need that submerged land property owner's permission to drive that pile into submerged land. So if we were on the right side of that red rectangle and mitigating those mangroves and installing the mooring facility there, we wouldn't necessarily need any permission from that submerged landowner. And it's surface waters of the state, just like all the canals are surface waters of the state. Anybody can go up and down, and that submerged landowner would not be able to, would not have any say-so in whether or not we put our boat over there.
Chad, I would, and again, if we're trying to find a mutually beneficial solution to the neighbors there, that submerged landowner has been a real troublesome entity for those homeowners there. And the town, the submerged landowners is more than happy to sell those rights.
It's been for sale for a long time.
Yeah.
And so the town, if they acquired those rights, could really gain favor with all those homeowners in a way that really, I mean, that submerged landowner prevents them from doing repair on their docks. It's been a nightmare for many of those homeowners. So if the town was to acquire those rights, then that might be a nice trade-off with that. We'd have to talk to those homeowners, but that might be a win-win for everybody at that situation, because I just know that submerged land issue, and Star, I'm sure you've heard it, the person's really difficult to deal with, and I hate to use the word extorts, but it's been bad. And
It was cheap it was cheap for sale until they found out that we could do something.
Right.
That we wanted it.
But it's a potential trade-off as you talk to those neighbors.
Sure.
If that's an option, if that would be appealing. I know the place I rented from, the owners of that were terrorized by this person and would love to have the town take over that submerged rights, and so people can at least work on their docks and not be threatened with lawsuits. And
Sure.
yeah.
And I mean, you can see the little squares in here. Those are actually, little cutouts where people have actually had to buy the space outside of their house. And
Is there any potential with our lawyer, have they ever been asked if we can eminent domain that for public? Or I don't know if there's a necessity.
Eminent domain is a pretty difficult process. I think, the amount of money we'd probably spend on legal,
You might as well just buy the guy, or something. Okay.
To Jim's,
it's not a very popular process either.
And it has to be necessity where there's no other options, I think, also. But
to Jim's point, is there a disparity in the financial viability of the three different sites? Does it range from, hey, this is the most cost economical to, this one would really require a lot of things? I don't know if you rank them.
Environmentally, I know mitigating these mangroves and the impact to the mangrove system themselves. This is a more pristine mangrove system versus at the end of Chapel or at the end of Virginia, where it's just a pocket or not a contiguous necessarily mangrove forest as you see here. So I would think the mitigation would be more expensive at Bay Oaks. I haven't done an analysis to see what kind of, basically whenever you mitigate mangroves, you're looking at the canopy acreage and then applying basically a formula for evaluating how pristine it is. Mm-hmm. And then, you're paying some percentage of that. So that percentage of pristineness is going to be higher here than it would be at the other locations. Having said that, I don't necessarily know that that's a showstopper per se, but it would, to your point, be a little bit more expensive to mitigate the mangroves there. It is going to be a longer sewer line here to connect it. Again, I don't know if it's a showstopper, but a little bit more expensive over here.
You have to buy that right of way, so there's a lot of the submerged land thing.
The last issue on the submerged land issue, since the fire department now owns that property that abuts the end of that canal, they're interested, there's been talk of having a fireboat at some point. So they might partner with us in purchasing that submerged land rights. Just in other words, to spread those costs.
Sure.
They might partner with us, because they've had challenges with this character as well.
Isn't this Bay Oaks, wasn't that a candidate for upland facility as well, at Bay Oaks?
It has been at one time, yes, sir.
But we're not really thinking about upland facilities right now. We're okay with where they are at Matanzas for the time being, or we're still working on that?
Everything's up for discussion.
But I mean, ideally, the pump out station would be at the location of the upland facility.
No.
Not necessarily. It's not, there's two separate operations there. One is, the pump out boat operation itself, and the other is giving access to our renters to upland facilities in compliance with our management agreement with FDEP for the submerged land and for the mooring field management plan. And Austin has long been an advocate for, we don't necessarily need to think of, we need to have all of our mooring field facilities in one spot. There's not just one spot that can accommodate everything. And as we were saying before, we need additional dinghy dockage. Well, that dinghy dockage doesn't necessarily have to be all in one spot. We could, there's different areas around the island where there's opportunities that would be more proximal to the north side or maybe the south side, and then also partnering with the marinas that are boater friendly to give them access as well.
There's also opportunity there right now at the end of the canal, behind Tops there, is the kayak launch that's not really very kayak friendly. So there might be an opportunity with Bay Oaks to have a reasonable kayak launch with parking, with where people could, it's very hard to, I don't think that's used very much back there.
And I think what would you say the usage of that kayak facility and who's using that? Can you speak to that also?
Yeah.
It's more dinghies than kayaks, isn't it?
What's that?
It's more dinghy people than kayaks right now,
Yeah,
isn't
so
it?
right now, basically, we've got our whole operation in the central field and then the east field out there. We don't have anybody in the backfield right now. We've got submerged vessels back there, which we're not trying to have any incidents back there, so we're not really assigning any of those systems.
But we will.
Well, we will, yes. But the usage of that one right now is mostly anchorage. We do have, anchorage around the entire island. Anywhere outside of navigable waters, it is free to anchor. So we do take on a lot of anchored boats that utilize that back area over there for their usage. Town staff every morning, we do monitor that, and we do clean it and maintain it on a daily basis, but it is just one of our properties that we do monitor. But then again, it is open to the public, so anybody can use it.
But it gets light usage at this
It
point.
does get light usage, yeah. So maybe about 2 to 3 dinghies down there is basically what I run into. It's not really set up to store vessels there. It's basically set up just to launch vessels.
And the original kayak launch is not being heavily used
No.
for kayaks.
No, I
Because
don't think it's being
there's
advertised.
parking issues and,
Yeah.
So I was just confirming that video was posted. So, all right, so moving on to the grant opportunities.
one more question.
Yeah.
Bay Oaks, we wouldn't need a zoning change or anything for Bay Oaks, would we?
I'm not sure.
There's a
if
lot of issues that you-
right-of-way
that you
that
covered.
encapsulates the property, I'm not sure if we would need to rezone that or not.
Okay.
It's a possibility.
Thank you. Sorry.
So why are we bringing this up? Why are we talking about this now is funding. My direction is, Chad, don't think about building anything until you have funding for it. There are funding opportunities for these facilities, and those funding opportunities are, at least for this cycle, are closing up very quickly, so we need to hop on it quick if we're going to do anything. Otherwise, it will be same situation for the next year.
And the deadline for what you're looking at?
Yep, we're going to get into that. So we have, so first we have the FWC FBIP grant that can be used for boat ramps, boat lifts, public launching facilities, amenities, etc. So this is a possibility for the mooring areas, and the work that would need to be done to create a town vessel mooring facility. There's no match required, but that match does make you more competitive. So offering land may be a feasible match that we can put forth to make our bid more competitive. And that application window is mid-January to mid-March, so fastly approaching. And we would need some consensus from town council to apply for any of these. So the availability of town council meetings is also closing up for this, to make this one happen. We have the FIGP grant. This is a federal grant. It's a little bit further out. A 25% match is required. I'm told because it's federal, a lot more reporting on the back end as well, a little bit more complicated on the application. We have used it in the past, I believe, but it's, that may have been the FBIP, so I may have misspoken there. But anyway, it's April to July. There's still an opportunity there, but I'm not sure if this is going to be the right grant for what we're proposing today, but we will explore it. We have the WeSend grant, so looking at dredging for public channels, important note there. So that won't cover our canals, but it also covers vessels, marine debris removal, launching and tie-up facilities, environmental education, marine law enforcement. We use this for our LCSO to get additional coverage on the holiday weekends, et cetera, boating safety and education. There is a 50% match there, and it does provide for funding for construction-related costs. Again, maybe an opportunity there for our mooring facilities, and definitely for hopefully a town service vessel. Our current service vessel is just not up to task. Kudos to Austin for making it work and using it for everything that he does, but an upgraded vessel is much needed. And then the Clean Vessel Act, we've spoken with CVA grant staff at FDEP, and they have advised that the peristaltic pump, the connection to the sewer, would be fundable by this grant. So again, it would be a 25% match required by the town, but it is something that we can help get it paid for. And that's year round, so there's not as much pressure on the CVA. It's more what we're really looking for is, in order to get, so for the mooring vessel, for the boat lifts location, and for this, we need some direction on location, because we can't apply to grants without saying where we're going to put this facility. We need to be as shovel ready as possible. So that's, apologize for being pushy and trying to figure out how we're going to make this work, but we just need some direction on where. And this is y'all's town, so we're looking for some direction on that from everybody involved. And that's all I have for this.
So,
Okay.
are we allowed to address the people who are here for public comment and ask a question?
Sure.
Why not?
So, Star and Kathy, does the information that they've presented change your feeling at all about the state having the pump-out facility?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not, okay.
I see the writing on the wall.
It doesn't look like it's a 3x2x2 pump out. It looks so much more. It's now boat lifts, it's
More boats.
it's things like that.
And parking.
I was starting to research how we get the mangroves back, because as Chad said, at the end of Tropical Shore, or Chapel as we're calling it, there's a lot less mangroves because they were destroyed.
Mm-hmm.
We should be
There
looking.
wouldn't be a space there had it not been for the mangroves that were ripped out because of the debris removal, which you got involved in when we started raising holy you-know-what.
Yeah.
And partly because of the hurricane. And the mangroves are protected, and you can say what you want, but they protected our home from that hurricane.
And now we can see
And
Astoria
now-
Boulevard and the beach, and it's a lot to take to have to go through this all over again. I just can't imagine. Well, how about we sell the 2 pieces of property behind the town hall, and that can offset what we're paying everywhere else. I mean, or again, and I don't want to throw the other side of Tropical Shores Way under the bus. There are a lot of rentals right there. There's a lot of rentals right there, and again, what everyone's gone through with that piece of submerged property is, that's really, the whole thing is just, I appreciate all the research Chad has done. It's just that, is there no other way than a residential area? Is there nothing? Chad?
I mean, these are just properties that the town currently has.
Yeah. So purchasing a marina, I guess, is an option.
Yeah, we could purchase anything, but we're trying to do.
With the funding. So, I mean, we definitely spun our wheels, and we'll keep working until we can find something that makes, I don't want to say everybody happy, but most people happy, I guess.
I just do want to make a point, though, that we are customer-driven based, and it is the residents as well. We do a lot of interaction with the residents, and that's how we did get our expansion built. We had people just like this coming in and going against what we wanted to do with expanding the field to the other side of the bridge. Basically, there was just a lot of misconceptions of what we do and how we do it. But since we did go and we did actually go and knock on everybody's door that did have a visual on the field, and we just went over all the fallacies, all the rumors and everything of the functionalities of how marine operations actually operates. And from that, as soon as everybody had a better understanding of what we did, I believe we had 3 letters come into town hall against it. Those residents came in and wanted the letters back. Everybody was for it because the town is actually just that, or basically marine operations, is to better the waters around Fort Myers Beach. We're not here to take anything away. We're only here to better everything. And to Jim Adderhall's point, any property or any property that we're adjacent to, we take in as ours. Anything that's going to make our functionality better or make us aesthetically better, we try to improve on. We don't really turn a profit or have any reports based on profit. What we do have is our image, and that's what we try to uphold is a pristine image within the residents and within people coming into this town. So just keep that in mind, that this is solely for customer service and the residents base to alleviate anything that may be a hindrance that the town is experiencing. Right now, we're experiencing a problem with an influx of vessels coming to the area to look at the island and experience the island. And with that, it comes with a lot of the stuff they bring. So that's why we are doing what we're doing, just to try to combat all of the things that are coming into the island that actually benefits the island. So I just wanted to hit that we are a customer service-based operation.
And just to reiterate that, I can't stress enough how much pride Austin takes in his image, in the mooring field image, facilities, making sure it's tip-top, and having his crew maintain that image to his standard, which is a high standard. And then also, again, let's not lose sight of why do we have this mooring field. We're not just doing it because we want to. It is a significant benefit to our water quality. Just in the fourth quarter of 2023, we pumped out over 5,000 gallons of black water that went into the sewer system instead of going into the back bay. And that has a big impact, and that number will only continue to grow as our occupancy comes up to speed with our mooring facilities that are on offer. But again, it's a net public benefit to have this mooring field operating the way that it has in the past and the way that we hope to continue in the future.
So we have 3 potential locations, each have their pros and cons. What is the next step to figure out how we move forward with this? Is it
I think
public comment? Is it what?
Well, we're an advisory committee, so.
Yeah, what can we do to
I
help?
believe the council did direct us to go and make contact with the residents and start to compile pros and cons and start to get the input from the residents, as we did in the past with the expansion of the field. Basically lay out exactly what we're doing and let the residents decide on exactly how to move forward.
My suggestion would be, I don't know the Virginia site. I don't, you obviously want to go and talk to some of those surrounding property owners, but I do think the Bay Oaks piece has some puzzle pieces that could be very beneficial to the neighborhood. If the town, maybe along with the fire department, acquired those submerged rights, the town or the fire department's attorney knows exactly who owns it. They've been dealing with them for years. Our town attorney could reach out. We could procure those submerged land rights, which would be a great benefit. Maybe we could help dredge that, make that a priority to dredge that early. So you have some, when you're talking to the landowners, you can have some carrots when you're discussing what you're thinking about. But I think that and Star's right, there's a number of rentals in that area as well. But they're concerned about that submerged land issue as well. So that might bear the most fruit. I don't know, maybe the Virginia property, I don't know about the neighborhood input there, but that's how we left it. The council said, just go talk to some of these neighbors. Obviously, we've heard the concern about Chapel here, but you might get a little bit better response on Tropical Shores, or I'm sorry, Bay Oaks, because of that submerged land issue, and as well as the fact that you could maybe push it out closer to the bay because you've got a long stretch of land there. So just food for thought.
How much are we talking about, Jim, though? I mean, how much does that guy want to sell it for? And
You know, it's a great question. I had the number in my head, but it wasn't outrageous. It was, I think, 30 or 50,000.
It was like 30,000
Yeah,
and multiple
30.
listing at one point.
Yep.
I can look that up.
So it was
for you
modest.
and,
Yeah, thanks.
See if it's
yeah.
still
so
listed.
bake sale, we could cover that.
Yeah, and then the fire department would probably split it with us, and
Yeah, so, to your point, Ms. Chris, I think we're just looking for some feedback. I kind of feel like we've, not done our job, but we've kind of presented. If you want to give some advice either to council or back to staff, concurring with town council to go get neighborhood impact input. If anyone feels strongly as to, pluses and minuses of any of these properties, and advising council on that. But we're just looking for y'all to give feedback to council. That's y'all's job as representatives of the town, and just give us some direction.
Did you want us to just recommend a site, or are you looking for a
I want
motion?
y'all to do what y'all feel is best. I hate to.
I don't think it's fair to the committee to recommend a site until they talk to some of these neighbors and get a better sense of, take the temperature.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be great if for each of these 3 sites, you really fleshed out the pros and cons, both from a perception issue as well as hard costs and feasibility, because what's the time frame for some of these things? If we have to build a much longer sewer line and it costs this and it's more disruption, can you play that out a little bit in more detail to show exactly what the impact is in the short term and the long term?
And I think to Chris's point, because Star mentioned this, or maybe Kathy did, but I never even thought about this. We acquired these 2 properties behind Town Hall for that Uplands facility, which is no longer an option. We could, if the Bay Oaks required some additional costs, we could sell one of those or both of those properties to cover those costs. Same purpose, might work. That's something I'll share with my colleagues at the council. But if there's a funding issue to acquire that submerged land, to do the dredging, to extend the sewer line, I'm sure the sale of those properties would more than cover those costs.
Yep.
And
Yeah,
let's
the
put a
positive
time
side of
frame.
this, we have options, so
Yeah.
we'll
Yeah, I
definitely
mean,
support
let's time bind this so that it's not, we're gonna keep talking about this for the next several months. Let's get some deadlines and say, by this time, we're gonna have, our pros and cons, we're gonna have gotten some initial input from the neighborhoods and,
Can I just say one thing?
Yes, ma'am.
Chad and Austin, Kathy and I would be very willing, if you would like to walk across the street, if you would like us to introduce you to every person who lives on the street, all of our neighbors, we would be happy to do
That would
that.
be a great help. Yes, ma'am.
We know everyone, we're
Yes,
all
ma'am.
very close, so we would be happy to do that. We'll just
Did you mean for the Bay Oaks location?
Yes.
Because that's the other side of Tropical Shore.
both sides of our street.
The other thing that we should consider before we approach all the neighbors is maybe it would be good to have an aesthetic plan. This is
What's
what
it
we're
look
going to
like?
landscape, this is what you're going to see, what you're not going to see as a general idea, because that's going to make a big difference
Yeah, I
from
mean,
the
I would love-
roadside
I'd love
and
to
the
do
ones.
that. It's just so many hours in the day.
Yeah.
And, now I think we're kind of getting beyond our resources with the kind of the skeleton crew that we have right now, just to keep, up with what we've done here. And,
I meant a general, like what they did with the 7-Eleven, where they said we 6 foot, 7 foot. If we just
I-
kind of set some
concept
general
plan.
constraints, so we want 8-foot shrubberies or something like that, and
So basically what we did in the past with the expansion is we put together a packet, an informational packet with surveying drawings, aerials and things like that we had visuals and could go over the details of exactly what we were doing. So,
the footprint where
yes,
everything is, and
there was
just a
actually
tentative
visuals
plan.
attached to what exactly we're talking about. Basically eliminating anything to the imagination. I think that's what happens is the imaginations of ideas, they start running away. and you could look at a piece of paper and then you talk to it 4 people down and it turns into a butterfly. So I just want to kind of eliminate anything to the imagination. I just want the facts out there and nobody speculating on exactly what we do or how we do it.
On the side, to see if there's any possibility of
Oh,
working up there.
I don't know.
Is a motion in order for any of this, or
Can,
everyone will just watch
Go ahead and
this?
bring it up,
I think
yeah.
that's fair. I think
Like
it's
a
very
Coast
similar to
Guard
how the
facility?
council left it with them. They just encouraged them to reach out to the neighborhood folks and get some feedback and then come back and let us know.
I think
We could move that, we
starting at the ferry service.
Yeah.
support the idea presented for them to continue to reach out to the neighbors.
That'd be great.
would you
Same.
like to make that motion, Ted?
Before we go there,
Okay,
Can
well,
I
we're going to
ask-
have discussion too.
can I have a question?
Sure.
Or
Well, no, you can ask
a
first.
practical, maybe. Is there any possibility, any disadvantage, any concern of looking into the San Carlos side of the channel?
I knew you were thinking.
For being able to consider,
Yeah, we have looked into that actually, and we've just gotten different direction from town hall.
Have you looked into the ramp location?
Yeah, our feedback, I mean, we've had our eyes wide open for offices and facilities. There's a lot of opportunities when you jump over the bridge, but it needs to be in our jurisdiction as our direction.
possibility maybe of the Coast Guard facility cooperating. There was some talk about creating a ferry service over there. I don't know who owns that landing. Any possibility of looking at co-locating a pump out station associated with that?
That's a great idea. I don't know what direction they've been given in terms of having the facility in the town's physical jurisdiction. I don't know. I don't know if I assume that came from our town
Anytime
manager.
you start involving, other, whether it's a private entity or another governmental entity, it just complicates things, whether it's, FDOT with working with Under the Bridge, US Coast Guard with working just to get these other 6 systems done. Things that seem like they're really simple, all of a sudden, it just takes a lot of, the deliberate motion of government to get things done. And, again,
Yeah, I perfectly understand, Chad, but it doesn't sound like any of the proposed current options are going to be not complex. They're going to have its own complexity to a point. Maybe you're right, that's going to be more complex and not practical, but who is going to own the land, or who would be associated with the ferry stop on the San Carlos side?
I just know the person involved. I don't know who owns the marina. I'd have to check on that, John. That's a good question, though. Yeah.
There's also some private property that may have potential. Places like Summer Electric. I know Summer Electric, before Bill passed, he bought the property next to him, which is a trailer, and Olson's Marine, I'm not sure what they're doing in that little stretch there. That's already zoned commercial. I don't know if there's potential, probably not to buy, but maybe a 50-year lease or something like that. It's already plumbed for it, it's already zoned for it.
Would it even be practical to have it on that side, Austin?
On what side? Sorry.
Having it on the San Carlos side?
Would it be practical?
Yeah.
Would
no,
it
like
work
you
for
the staff?
If you had the ability to create what you're looking for over there, would it be practical to
again,
use it?
he's pumped out at Diversified before. There's something he can't do, but we're,
I
there's
know
two
what
parts
you-
of it is mooring the vessels as well as, the pumping out.
I understand. I was just
Yeah, it would-
wondering about the physical possibility
Yeah, it
of
would be
working from the
practical,
side.
of course, but then again, during season, getting over the bridge back and forth and
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that, there's a lot of variables that we're adding into it when we're trying to eliminate them.
Mm-hmm.
So, anything, we can work with anything, honestly, but it's just getting it done efficiently is what we're going for.
Can I ask a question? Have we looked at those San Carlos side post-hurricane? Because I know you looked at them all pre-hurricane
Yeah,
when we were going through this
post-hurricane, we've
prior.
had the discussions and we've been told, we've been directed to, stay
There's
on
not
that.
a piece of property, not a,
It's all owned by the county. It's all county-owned. Trico, again, I believe, is closing in, and that whole area is going under county jurisdiction, which I believe they're building some kind of public facilities over there. But then again, we've been directed to stay on island, and then that is owned by the county. My ultimate goal would be Bowditch Point as our number one facility, but then again, that's owned by the county. And like I said before, if we get into what we don't own and going after things, that would be a whole different picture. But we're focusing on what we do have at this time and trying to apply that. Then again, if this doesn't work out, we can always fall back and see other means. But for right now, we're trying to focus on what we have currently. But my ultimate goal would be Bowditch.
Any more discussion? We've got, I think Ted wanted
I'm
to
not very good at wording.
make a motion.
At my age, so the committee agrees that the course set out by the council to continue to investigate, help me out a little,
Investigate the sites.
investigate the sites and get to know the people to see if we can find a way that is most acceptable to all involved.
Yeah, and I would add to that, and, you know, really building out the feasibility from both a financial perspective as well as an ease of doing it perspective, as well as the public input and public impact.
Okay.
So
We have a
there-
motion. Anyone would like to second it?
I'll second that.
Ed seconds. Discussion. I think Chris kind of included everything in
Sorry, it's
there
the- yeah.
that we want, including the public comment, including the items that were already mentioned by staff, and staff said they would be open to other items also. So I think that's probably a good motion to carry forward. We're not really making any recommendation at this
It's
time
helpful.
other than
It's
to
helpful.
go forward, but we have narrowed it down and discovered some of the issues. So any other discussion? All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously.
And thank you to staff for their thoughtfulness, and thank you to the people who have showed up to, share
Thanks for listening.
some of the
Yes, thank you.
impact.
Okay, moving on to current items.
Laguna Channel?
Laguna Shores Channel.
You want to just bear with me as I pull up the file. The internet's a little slow and pulling it off the cloud and all that good stuff. Apologize.
Chad, you received what I emailed you?
Yes, ma'am. No, thank you. We'll be in touch.
Okay.
Chad, you received the files that I emailed you, correct?
Yes.
Regarding this.
Thanks, Star. Thank you.
Thanks, Sam.
Thanks.
The waterfront on the San Carlos side, is that under our council,
Oh my God, that's my next thing to ask
Jim?
Jim,
Yeah.
because there's some motion on that. And I'll ask him in a minute so everybody can hear.
Next time, can we have blankets?
Yeah, I know.
Oh, freezing.
It's cold in here.
Freezing.
Chad, how are you not freezing?
Chad's hardcore, man.
Have you here to warm me up?
Oh,
And growing up north, right?
yeah.
No, I'm actually from Baton Rouge.
Yeah.
It's been 3 long cold years in Green Bay and came right back down, so.
Yeah.
Baton Rouge. There's a
sir.
place called the Texas Club in Baton Rouge. You ever hear of it?
I have not.
It's right on campus.
Okay.
Been there. That's the only place I've ever been in Baton Rouge. That's a fun town.
Yes, sir. Good food, good people.
Yep.
Have you seen this, if it gets to marketing?
No, I haven't.
Okay, this was passed out
Okay,
at this
That's
meeting,
terrific,
but I
yeah.
don't know if you got that copy.
I did not. Thank you very
And
much.
Chris, there's another, I'm going to ask about it during my items.
Okay.
We have a new person in
PIO.
charge of marketing.
Yep.
PIO.
Yep, I had that on my list to
Yep.
say that we need to,
Coordinate with her. She sounded like she's off and running already.
Yeah.
She's been working it. They just appointed her, but she's been working for a while, I guess.
Yeah, seems good. Sam, did we vote on approving the minutes?
We did.
Okay,
We already did. I signed them.
it's embarrassing to ask that question.
We squoze it in there. Hey, Chad, are you ready to continue, or did you want us to
We're, yeah, ready to rock.
do something else?
Mr. Jim
Okay.
is
I
here.
want you to wait for me, I'm sorry.
Hey.
Gosh. I'm
All right,
sorry, I apologize.
So, the Laguna Channel, I'm not sure if everyone's familiar with it, but I'll just briefly give you kind of a brief history over the last decade or so. It's off of Buccaneer Lagoon on the south side of Estero Island. It provides boater access to the Gulf for all of the benefiting properties along Estrelita, as well as inside Buccaneer Lagoon itself. There is approximately 100 benefiting properties that would use this channel to get Gulf access. WCIND does not consider this a public channel, therefore it is not eligible for grant funding under them. We'll get into the reporting as of why our FEMA funding, our public assistance for this is not as much as we would have liked. So just to give you all an idea, I'll pump this up a little bit. So you have, this is Buccaneer Lagoon coming out of here, and then you have the bridge that would be on this side, on the west side of it. So you have this channel. This is the, it's been previously dredged several times. The original configuration, you have submerged aquatic vegetation, aka seagrass, in here. So originally, Aquatic Preserve staff forced the town to dredge closer to the bridge. The engineer disagreed with that, saying it would fill in really quickly. Forced to do that, we dredged it. Sure enough, it filled in really quickly, and FDEP AP staff capitulated to allowing us to go into the original configuration that our engineer had specified. And so we have this channel here, which again is kind of cutting through this naturally accreting area to provide navigational access to the Gulf for those benefiting properties. We were set to dredge it right before Hurricane Ian. There was definitely some complicating factors with regards to benefiting properties. Our previous council member, Bruce Butcher, championed it to get the neighborhood together to, put in their share. The previous council had said, we'll do a 50-50 split. The town would pay for 50%. The benefiting properties would pay for 50%. The probable cost was, I think it was around, $600,000, and that's kind of where it came at with the bid as well. So $300,000 ended up being about $3,000 that needed to come from each benefiting property. And so, having said that, it rolled out the way it did. It was not done at the county level. It was more of a, for lack of a better term, a quick and dirty way of getting the funding. If everybody's on board and wants to get this funded, rather than go through the county and getting it put on the tax bill, put up to $3,000. Having said that, participation was not 100% from those benefiting properties. It's just, for a variety of reasons, and not to take away from any of those reasons. And so I think we ended up getting somewhere around 50% participation, and all that money, I believe, I hate to say all because absolutes are always wrong, but that money was refunded back to those property owners to the best of staff's ability. I think there's some hanging issues there, but we're trying to work to resolve those. So funding, my point is, funding's an issue. Getting the benefiting properties to all put in their share, as well as us getting our funding. I just wanted to. So that's the background of it. Any historical questions?
Were the residents that were either were or weren't refunded, were they given a reason why the dredging project wasn't moving forward, or was it just expected to be obvious?
I believe everybody has been, our utility staff has been communicated and explained to that the hurricane happening, that it's been a long year and a half. I'm sure. I don't even recall, how that was rolled out, but our utility staff did refund those monies, and they've been in touch with, any issues. Does that answer your question?
Well, I was just wondering if they were informed, why the dredging project wasn't moving forward. My neighbor Mike Poff is here, and he was involved with Bruce,
right,
in getting this thing rolling, and maybe I should ask him.
I think the storm just called everything off, is what happened. Is that what happened pretty much? The storm canceled everything.
I think between not being 100% funded from the benefiting properties and then the hurricane happening and just having bigger problems is the reasoning. Could have been communicated better. Everything always can be communicated better.
So you're just looking for a reset. Where do we go now? This was
the
old plan. It didn't pan out, and so
Right.
now we need to figure out what
Here's
plan
where
B
we're
is.
at. I know that neighborhood still wants access. They have some boats in there, and even on the smaller boats, it can be difficult, if not impossible, at low tide. So just wanted to go through this report. It hasn't disappeared on me. Okay, so I'm just going to read through. Our engineer provided us an update to our September 24th, 2020 assessment of the channel. So back then, I believe we had around 6,000 cubic yards to dredge. So this is just reading off a letter from HWA, Marine Engineers and Environmental Consultants. So in March of 2022, bids were received by the town of Fort Myers Beach for maintenance dredging of the Laguna Shores Channel. The low bid tendered by Arbor Tree and Land, Inc. for the dredging of 6,600 cubic yards of sediment. The project stalled while in negotiation for confirming a material transfer location. So just to speak to that, we didn't have a lot of vacant lots, and that was another complicating factor for the project, was trying to find the staging and handling. By the time we did shore up that issue, again, we were I think into pretty close to when Hurricane Ian was about to hit. So a property that tentatively agreed to be used for this purpose changed ownership at the time that the bids were received, and the new owner was reluctant to engage due to potential impacts to the existing seawall. This delay stretched into the active hurricane season and Hurricane Ian impacting Lee County before the scheduled dredging could occur. So post-Hurricane Ian, HWA conducted a bathymetric survey of the project site on July 28, 2023. A comparison of the data reveals an increase in 328 cubic yards from September 2020 to July of 2023 over a period of 2 years and 10 months. Lacking a survey conducted immediately prior to the storm event, it was unclear if the storm removed, added, or had any appreciable effect on the quantity of sediment within the dredging template. Per the 9/24/2020 letter, the rate of infill for a 5-year period is 995 cubic yards per year, representing 85% of the original dredged volume. Once the channel had achieved the 85% infill rate, it appears that further infill diminishes. A more refined assessment would require annual bathymetric surveys to confirm if there is a continual decreasing rate of infill over time. So here we're just speaking towards how fast does it infill. It fills up really quick whenever it's empty, and then it kind of diminishes is the point. This report update is limited to the 3 years of surveys done in 2015, 2020, and 2023 is when we have surveyed that Laguna Channel.
Does this just benefit the community access? Is this associated with general access, or is this just benefiting a certain amount of community
I
properties?
think it's yes and yes. I mean, before the hurricane, we had tours going back there and showing it's an aquatic preserve. Buccaneer is a unique spot. There's definitely public going in there to fish. There were tour boats going in there for dolphin tours. I think, and that was part of the reason why the town was willing to do the 50-50 split.
So different levels of impact. There are people who, directly benefit from it, and then some sort of tertiary benefits.
Yes, ma'am. So the current data indicates that to maintain the channel, dredging would be required to be roughly every 4 to 5 years. Using an annual deposition rate of 995 cubic yards, there would be nearly 4,000 cubic yards to excavate every 4 years, excluding anomalous tropical events.
No more
For
hurricanes.
budgeting, it is assumed that there will be available material transfer location with local final placement of the sediment, using an average cost for all-in bids from 2022 of $95 per cubic yard. A single maintenance event conducted on a 4-year cycle will cost approximately $378,000. I will caveat that in saying that dredging costs have been volatile, and I've heard a lot of different numbers. So that cost, again, is based on $95 a cubic yard, may be low, may be high, may be right on point. It just depends on, you don't really know until you go out and bid the project. And again, this is for a 4,000 cubic yard removal. Remember that we have, and that would be for a maintenance program for us to budget against. Right now we have closer to 6,500 cubic yards, so the initial dredge would be somewhat more than that. So post-Hurricane Ian, there's been an observed escalation of dredging costs and no easily discerned reason for the increase. So he's just going into the fact that there have been costs up to $200 a cubic yard. And basically saying there are so many factors involved in the cost estimation that an annual cost for such work is only known once there has been a bid conducted. So sorry.
Has there been any soundings lately of the depth and what's filled in there?
It's shallow. I mean, we haven't done depths recently. I do have bathymetrics that I can share.
You guys have eyeballed it and gotten just general
We have proper
input.
bathymetrics, and I can share that
Okay.
with you and the public. but it is shallow. So,
I went out the other day, it was 0.9 feet at low tide from the bottom of my boat, 0.9.
Mike, since you've been waiting patiently, do you want
Yes.
to, have just kind
I'll
of,
just listen to what Chad has to say and.
Hey, and there's going to be public comment in a couple minutes,
Okay,
and
that's fine.
yeah, if you want to,
Well, I requested this be on the agenda, so we
Yeah,
could have more
good.
than 3 minutes to explain, you know.
yeah, it'd
and
be
if you
great
have to leave, let us know, and we'll
feedback.
go quick.
Want me to say something?
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Chad, I just heard recently, maybe you can correct this. or
Hey,
not.
Mike, please introduce yourself.
Can the sand be used to renourish the beach?
So yeah, I was going to get into that.
Okay, well, I'll wait if you're going to get it.
Yeah, so that is good news. So a lot of that material looks like it will be beach compatible. We would have to find a staging and handling site, and they would assess it as it's coming out, and stuff that was not beach compatible would be put somewhere else, and the material that is beach compatible could possibly be used to infill some of our erosional areas close by, which would greatly reduce the trucking costs that were associated with the previous bid. So that is great news to Mr. Mike's point.
Okay, and the other thing is, you know, you said it's not considered a public channel.
By WeSend.
Yeah, but it's maintained as a part of the intercoastal waterway. It's not a private channel, I don't believe. It's not considered a private
It's
channel.
considered a private channel by WeSend.
Okay. Everybody uses it.
But it's not part of
I
the
understand. This is for grant purposes. and it's
Now, what we've done, I've been on this 3 years. Been working on this 3 years, and I'm pretty well done. But what we have done, we've gone to every waterfront person there. I've personally done it, sit down and talk to them, explain to them what's happening. 90-some% of them agreed to pay our share of this. Now, that was before the hurricane. After the hurricane, after the devastation and the money coming out of everybody's pocket, I don't know where they're gonna be. But right now, you cannot get a decent-sized boat in and out of that channel. And it affects, like Chad says, it affects about 100 people there, but it even affects the people who aren't waterfront in Laguna Shores for property values. Because if that is closed off, our property values plummet. Right now, I got a kid that bought the house next to me, Tartarian's house. He's got a 30-foot whaler. He's selling the house because he can't get his boat in and out. So, you know, that's some of the things we're dealing with. We did, the original deal, as you said, was a half and half deal. I think the way the money was taken, you know, I think it was put on the water bill, some of the money, which was, you know, everybody agrees was a mistake. If you're gonna do it, it's probably gotta be put on the taxes. I think most people in Laguna Shores will agree that we wanna help with this. It's gotta be done. It's gotta be done. I thought after the hurricane, you could get an emergency dredging situation. Maybe you can't do that.
So the emergency situation definitely helps for permitting, and we are already permitted by the state and the feds. In terms of public assistance, they're only going to make you whole from what the storm impacted, and unfortunately, the channel was already almost at capacity. So there wasn't much infill for the hurricane to cause. Therefore, FEMA is not going to necessarily pay to remove what was already there before the storm, if that makes sense.
But they would agree to pay for what the additional came in after the storm?
You know, you're talking about maybe 300 cubic yards.
Okay, so not very much.
Right.
All right, other than that, the only thing I have to say, Ed asked me to be here to talk to the people there. I think we're willing to help do it. Like I say, everybody uses it. It's not just benefiting the people that live there. Everybody uses it. Tour boat after tour boat after tour boat come through there. I know Fish and Wildlife came in and got their boat stuck coming in. So when they get stuck, you know you got problems. But we're willing to help. The community's willing to help with the cost. We realize it's a tough situation. I think with the sand being used on the beach, and they got 2 empty lots right there, maybe those 2 lots would help, you know, so we didn't have to truck the stuff so far. I don't know if anybody has any questions for. I live on Lagoon, 8367 Lagoon, right on the bay. If you have any questions for me concerning going
Did you
in and
guys
out,
have
what
a
the situation is?
Mike, did you guys have a schedule, like this last dredge? That wasn't the first time you've dredged that, correct?
No, it wasn't. It's been dredged, I think, correct me, in 2010 or, and it's a couple times.
So there was the initial project, and I don't know the years exactly, but around that time period, there was the initial project, and then the reconfiguration back to the original plan, and then a hurricane hit and filled it, and so it was dredged again under an emergency situation. Right. So I believe, it's been on the order of a decade that it's been dredged, since it's been dredged.
And we feel strongly as owners that it has to be tested every year to see what's happening.
Yeah, I think
Hans Wilson used to do that.
I think all of our canals, there's a strong argument for us to be, get the maintenance program up and running and doing bad metrics on all of our canals and channels as a general practice. We've learned that lesson of, if we don't maintain it, we're not going to get funding, at least easily for it. So,
even though they don't say this is a public channel, it's much different than a canal. A canal was handmade. This was not. This is a natural lagoon, the only one on the island. So it's different than, somebody says, well, if we're going to do this channel, we got to do every lagoon. I totally disagree with that. This is a completely different situation than a man-made lagoon.
yeah, and again, whenever I'm saying it's a private versus public channel, I'm not trying to step on any toes and necessarily speak to the use. That's just me saying, hey, we send, can we get some money for this? And their response is, no, it's a private channel. And that's just it's speaking to the challenges for getting grant funding.
Mr. Chairman?
So I think paths forward is the next thing I wanted to speak to, unless you.
I was just going to offer a suggestion, but I was just going to suggest one of the things that I think would be helpful for the committee, for the council, would be to make that, to differentiate between this channel and the broader canal dredging discussion that's occurring on the island, and that we're talking about aggregating those canal dredging costs and then spreading them out amongst those who choose to opt in, or how we decide to do it, and then that go on the tax bill. I think we need to differentiate that this channel has public benefit, and therefore that we would continue as a town to partner with the residents to find a solution with the town, assuming, at least a 50% role. Obviously, if we can get a grant or use it for beach renourishment, that would be great. But I just think we need to differentiate this particular project from the private residential canals. I think it would be helpful to have the council have that. And then I think it would make the neighbors, was that fair, Ed?
Yeah, I think so. I don't actually live on the water, so I wasn't affected by this at all, but all my neighbors were, and I think whatever the town could do to make it right for Mike and his group is what we should do, and we should do it as fast as we can.
Yeah.
Full disclosure, I'm 3 houses north of Mike. So I see, and I agree with everything he said, except for one item is the intercoastal. It's actually not part of the intercoastal, that far down the island. But everything else he said is very accurate. We see it every day. Most people are very courteous. They're not throwing wakes, but we see tour boats and rental boats pretty much all day long. Fishermen against the mangroves, fishermen against our docks. It's a very well-used, however, lately you do not see big boats come in there or heavy draft boats come in there. They're mostly pontoons or smaller fishing boats. Even the tour boats are pontoons. They're not, the big ones don't come in. The Corinthians and the bigger tour boats do not come in. I think they did at one time. There was another thing that Mike mentioned that we've discussed many times. I just happened to move to that neighborhood right when this was going on, and I watched town council meetings, and they did not tell anyone that they were going to just take this off their water bill. If you had your water bill on bank draft, $3,000 came out. And there were a lot of people that got overdrafted, and a lot of people didn't know about it. Mike, he's kind of in the loop, but there are a lot of people that are out of town that didn't know about it that bounced a check on that one. And I'm not sure that's the right way, whether it's considered a utility or not, but that'd be something to look how we fund it, whether through.
We absolutely do not have to do it that way. Yeah, we have another option through the tax bill, and you could spread that over 20 years, whatever the folks decide to do, so it's not such an impact initially.
Or if we did it through the water company, that it not be automatically drafted without a permit, maybe without permission, so people weren't, surprised by it. what else was I going to say about that? That is a widely used, and it is different than just canals. It is a nature area. And,
I think if you could, on a tax bill and spread it over a period of time, the residents would be more than happy.
We could absolutely do that, Mike. I don't know why we didn't.
That's the way you gotta do it.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, to go to these residents now, some of them say, you gotta pay $3,000, they're gonna say, no.
Right.
I don't have it.
Right.
So what is it that you want our input on? Is it, should we move forward? Does it need to be a partnership?
Well, I think maybe some, we have a lot of things going on. We have a lot of projects. So if this is a priority that you would like to advise council, please prioritize this as a project. Again, there's only so many hours in the day, but that would bring it up to council's attention. Hey, we want this prioritized, and then, so paths forward are, working with our PA and our grant funding, maybe we'll hit the Hail Mary and somebody will help us pay for that. I don't know if we can count on that, and I don't know if we can count on that in a timely manner.
Chad, we are going into a massive renourishment, both trucked in and pumped in sand, dredged sand. This is a major contract for whoever gets that bid, wins that bid. Is there any way we can build this piece of dredging into that contract? We've got $40 million.
Those projects don't necessarily include a dredge in there.
But
anything's possible.
Could we get clever and
so the funding that we have being state, TDC, and town.
Yep.
State and TDC, could we build it into the contract? Yes. Are state and TDC going to pay for that portion of the contract? No. But
even if the sand that's from the dredge goes to Fort Myers Beach?
It's complicated. It's something I've definitely thought of. So you're basically, what you're saying is we're going to dredge and put 5,000, 6,000 cubic yards of beach-compatible sand in an upland. So that now becomes sand from an upland source. And then we would essentially be selling it to ourselves or selling it, somehow saying, hey, we have an upland source here. Can you fund this sand at $100 a cubic yard so we can put it on our beach, and then
Something to think about. I'm sure it's complex. We have something to think about, though, because that would be
it's a creative solution.
That would be a home run. Yeah.
It's just it doesn't fit into any funding source real neatly.
Okay.
So this is a question of, do we want to prioritize it? Can we fund it? If so, how? And how would we get the neighborhood agreement to participate?
If we put the two Mike Poffs together in a room, I bet they could solve this problem.
Yeah, there was I've had some interesting criticism of, why is Michael Poff, putting his head into this thing? He's our consultant. It's like,
if they gave me half his money,
Hey, Chris, would you like to structure a motion about proceeding with it and getting funding?
Yeah, if I can just give one more thing. So the model for funding this with the benefiting properties is already there. We have I think it's called MSBU, Municipal Taxing Benefiting Unit.
It's just the match and the
Right, so there's a way to assess this. It's been assessed in the past. It also, previously with this past project, it was only basically the single family homes. I think it's Marina Towers.
Yes.
Marina Towers is a benefiting unit. They have dockage there that needs to use that.
They do.
And it should be included. It was not.
Have you talked to them, Chad?
I have spoken with them.
I did too. It didn't go well.
Right.
Well, no one's living there yet.
Right.
No comment. So, no, I mean, it went well, but it was not something that they were jumping to help out. But that's the benefit of setting up an MSBU, but that is something that, we might need to get a consultant involved to get this set up, and, there's a lot of technicalities, legalese, and et cetera, to set this up. It's got to go to commission, Lee County Commission for a vote to get it on the tax bill, et cetera. So again, the calculus in doing it the quick and dirty way was to get it done sooner than doing it that way. That may take, I'm not sure how long, to get it on the tax bill, but that will delay it a little bit.
I'm gonna make a suggestion. I'm just the advisor here, but I would suggest this committee, and I know it's radical, Chad, so bear with us, that this committee charge our consultant, Mike Poff, with working with the bidding process and the potential vendors and the various funders of our $40 million in sand to see if this particular channel could be used as a source for dredged sand to renourish either scours or the beach or wherever it's wherever, depending on the quality of the sand, wherever it's practical for the island. And that would be the most direct, and I know it's hard, Chad, I know it's complicated, and it may not be possible, but it's worth a shot, because he's got a team there. I know you're swamped, but we could charge Mike with that. Maybe he could work
I
some
agree.
magic.
He's more of a sandcastle guy. He likes to build the sand that's already there, but we can definitely use his knowledge and his coastal engineering. They have a lot of assets in there that we can try and brainstorm and see what we can come up with.
Does that sound good to you?
Just another quick comment, because I'm pretty familiar with the neighborhood and Marina Towers especially. And that original pass that cut near the bridge, in case Marina Towers is thinking they can use that, I walk that every morning. That is not usable at all anymore. They will have to come in the new way from now on. The other thing is that a lot of construction on Estrelita. There's 2 huge houses going up. There's still a couple empty lots. However, once they start construction on those, which I've heard is going to be pretty recent, those might not be available for a land
That
site.
dovetails into another issue that the community has, which is staging and handling, spaces for staging and handling. We have 30 some odd canals. Dredging, is going to be something that we're going to do as a waterfront community for years to come. And acquiring, strategic pieces of land for the purpose of staging and handling future dredge projects is an important strategic initiative that I would encourage the community to think about while there is open land available to acquire. Again, the challenge with that is funding that land acquisition, but in 5-10 years, the solution to staging and handling is going to get a whole lot more complicated, and getting on the front end of it to have again strategically placed pieces of land to for a short duration to be a staging and handling site for everyone's benefit is something that we should think about as a community.
Chris, would you like to structure a motion with urgency?
And Chad, you may have went through this. You talked about a lot of cubic yards, cubic feet, and stuff like that. Is there a defined amount of depth that the channel would be restored to?
I forget the maintenance configuration. I could look at the permit.
Why do you have to leave?
Is it -7 mean low water?
At some point today.
I'm not sure if it's -5 or -7, but it is definitely
We're at time.
in our permit. I can get that to you
Yeah.
shortly.
And what would you consider, obviously there's going to be a fill-in that's going to occur. What would you consider minimum amount to be usable after the fill-in?
Oh, what, a controlling depth? Is that what you're
talking about,
looking
low
at?
tide?
Yes,
Gee, because I would think 4 feet
4 feet. Okay.
be minimum.
And that's a mean low, usually everything's from mean low tide, right?
Yeah.
The controlling
Yeah.
depth?
Yeah. My experience is maybe 3 feet.
Well, it could be. I mean, it depends upon size, you're not going to get any outboard or inboards in.
You have to realize that whatever you do at controlling low tide are spring tides, and we've had a couple real doozies lately. In the wintertime, it can go a foot, even slightly more than a foot below that normal low tide, mean low tide.
Yeah, so Mr. Mike's correct. -7 mean low water is the maintenance configuration for the channel.
Okay, well, we'd like to make a motion.
Sure. I would move that this committee recommend that this is an issue that the council should prioritize, and we should move forward to figure out ways to fund it and to get the project underway for the benefit of the town and the residents.
With the most grants.
What?
With the most grant money we can.
Yes, with the most grant money that we can get.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ted. Any discussion, further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay. And I abstain because I live in the neighborhood. Motion passes with one abstention.
Can I make one more comment before I leave?
Sure,
I
thanks,
just want
Mike.
to say, on the positive side, and you could attest to this, whoever cleaned the mangroves out on Buccaneer Lagoon did a fantastic job.
It was unbelievable.
Fantastic job. Those guys worked their tails off.
It was unbelievable
It was
what,
unbelievable.
well, you've seen, Austin saw it, seen worse messes than that, but it was an unbelievable mess because every single thing was right against there.
There's nothing there now.
And there's nothing there now. And they're starting to get green again. They're starting to get green again, so they probably got them out in time.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks for coming, Mike. Marketing project, that's our next item. We have a new PIO, which stands for Information Officer?
Public Information
Officer. And maybe we can invite her, what's her name? Nicole. She got introduced at the last meeting, but she's been on board for quite a while. And maybe we could invite her to one of our meetings and kind of go over what we're doing and how she can help us coordinate our marketing efforts.
Yeah, so that's the plan right now, is to get her immersed in how that mooring field actually works, so she can kind of go through and start publicizing what we do and how we do it. Now that the mooring field's built, we're trying to promote and sell the system, so we do need to get on board with the PIO and start selling.
Can we invite her to our next meeting?
Absolutely.
Okay. Do you want to do that, or should I call Eva, or you guys will do that? That'd be great. And between her and Chris, we're going to be like 100% occupancy, 100% of the year.
And John.
And anything else on the marketing, or we'll have a meet with Nicole? And is there anything specific?
We'll put it on next agenda.
Yeah, we'll keep it on there.
Yep.
Budget. What month is this?
With the time restraints, we did ask Joe, our finance director, to come and speak, but we'll push it on till the next meeting since time's getting kind of sensitive now.
Okay, so we got Joe coming. We also have, was Chris Nice here last time, or was he?
Yeah, Tony Smith.
Tony Smith was here last time. Chris Nice, do we need him to come, or did Tony pretty much covered all that?
Tony covered it.
Okay, so Chris is more the derelict vessels and all that,
No,
and
yeah,
the
I was
patrols?
gonna say Lieutenant Nice he's kind of in charge of marine operations, and Tony works for Officer Nice. But,
Okay.
they're both well-versed. in
Do
all
we
the
need
issues
Officer
that
Nice
they-
for anything specific at this point?
No, the only update on that would be that they're adding additional coverage on the weekends, especially the holiday weekends, which is going to be supplemented by our WeSID grant for law enforcement.
Okay.
I thought Tony did a great job in
Yeah,
explaining.
explaining the
Bruce
derelict.
does do a great job in here and out in the field. He's
Yeah.
our contact to go to, he is detective on the derelict vessels, so we are in close contact with him on a pretty much weekly basis at this point.
Yeah, he did a good job and helped me understand what they enforced and
It's all
our other
kind of-
enforcement.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So do we need to discuss the budget for September? Do we need to
I think if we can table that for,
Yeah.
I've been overloaded. I know I keep promising y'all that I'm gonna get to that. I'm just.
we'll leave it on for next time, but
I'll lean on our finance.
July, August, we need to make sure we have in our motion
Yeah,
for,
I think during and just as an update, during the month of January, even with the limited capacity that we had, the mooring field did, the revenue was around $20,000.
So when Joe comes to talk, will he talk about, sort of your budget in general and economic viability?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yep, yes.
okay, I think that section is over with. Members' items, John? Any members' items?
No, sir.
Okay. Oh, I forgot to, was there any more staff, or are you all set, Austin, with your reports?
I have a quick report if you guys want to hear it.
Yeah, let's do your report, and then we'll do the staff, then we'll do
What
this.
has happened over the last month?
Numbers again.
We do have all the systems pretty much installed. We're down to about 6 systems that staff is working on getting them installed versus the 6 systems that we're working with the U.S. Coast Guard and getting those relieved and authorized for usage. We did discover a sunken vessel that has split on one of the systems, so that's what we've been working on for the last few days now, is diving down and recovering the debris field that is enabling us, or disabling us from putting a new system in. So I think today and tomorrow we have a representative from FEMA coming out. They come out with us occasionally and monitor what we're doing, especially with debris recovery and helping us get the funding back and to getting everything covered when it comes to the debris removal. That's just one of 4 vessels that we do have in the field that are sitting on the bottom. We're working with Tony Smith and Wiesen as well, is getting these vessels removed, and it's going through the derelict vessel process and getting those removed. So we're working with that as well. The field is pretty much half full at this time. Like I said, we've got the 77. We're about at 45, teetered on 45, but people just keep coming in. We're starting to get good reports again as far as how the field is bouncing back. Like I always suggest, you can go on marinas.com. We have a review section on there for our marina, or our mooring field, that we've been receiving pretty much 5 stars on it and receiving good reviews on how we're rebuilding the field. A lot of the people coming in for 1-day to 2-day stays are now staying weeks on in once they get here. A lot of them are canceling their trips going down to Key West because they would rather stay here just because of what we're having to offer here. So we're starting to get a rapport in the boating community of that we are back and we are welcoming boats in. With that, like I said, we're getting boats from all over the world now coming to see Fort Myers Beach and the rebuild process of it. We still are running the pump outs pretty much. We bumped it up to about 3 days a week, doing special requests with the influx of boats coming in. We do not like to tell anybody that we can't pump them out. We like to get out there and get them pumped out as soon as possible in the best economical way that we can. And like I said, we did try using Moss Marina as a pump out station, but they had it's a modular pump that comes out on a cart with a generator with all of this, and it just seemed to be kind of more than it should be. We talked to Bill and Dave at Pink Shell, who are very, very open to helping us out, so we've been utilizing that. But then again, I don't like to cause any disruption in their services, nor would I want to be a bad rapport on the town being a worker of the town. I don't want to cause any conflict there. So we try to do it as minimal and as low impact as well over there. We're seeing an influx in anchored vessels, so we're starting to step up our anchored vessel reports. We're sending those over to the Sheriff's Department and working with them to make sure that the waters around the island are monitored, that everybody in the area is abiding by navigable laws and rules and regulations. Other than that, the pump out boat, it went down yesterday. I believe we lost the fuel pump on it. Just standard operational, so we're working on it today. We should have it operating tomorrow to complete any pump outs that we didn't receive. We still are the only facilitator in the area for pump outs, so we still are doing Moss Marine, Snook, pretty much all the local marinas. We are pumping them out, as well as the Anchorage field and our mooring field as well. Everything other than that, we're just pushing forward and trying to attend to customer service at this time during season, and we are stacking projects on to get our perimeter buoys replaced, and any damaged systems, we are working daily on getting those replaced. But other than that, we're full operation, and we're looking to bring in some more staff to help alleviate hours and things like that. We did have an administrator come over and help us out. Her first day was today, so we're still trying to get that filled and trying to get things more customer service oriented. So that's where we're at with the field.
Any questions for Austin? I had a couple quick ones. How's the dinghy dock holding up capacity-wise? You getting people to raft off okay, like the
Yeah.
olden days?
Yeah, so we do have staff here 7 days a week. Our office is located right at the dinghy dock. We make contact with people and monitor the dinghy dock hourly, pretty much. Any influx of it, we can direct them to an overflow that we've been utilizing at Matanzas Inn. We have a small section over there that if it gets too cramped, we've been referring them over there. But at the most part, the boating community is very understanding of each other and work with each other, even though they may be strangers. Everybody's under the same impression of what needs to happen. So anything at the dinghy dock or any issues that may happen seem to alleviate themselves with minimal staff intervention.
Do you suggest them to leave like a 10-foot painter line or anything like that?
Yeah,
when
so
it starts
we do
getting
have
crowded?
standard operations at the dock, the 10-foot painter, the no dinghies over 10 foot, leave your engines down, and no overnight dinghy. We're not storage, so you can't leave your dinghy there overnight, but everybody is understanding of what we're doing.
Whatever you can do, I know there's no fishing under there right now, whatever you can do to prevent them from being fishing, because fishing and inflatable boats do not mix.
So we did put up paper signs, no fishing in this area. It's kind of crude right now. We did order with municipalities.
Because it's not ours, the steps are theirs, right?
Yeah,
The steps are.
Yeah, we do have signs on order though to be put up. We've just ordered a bunch of regulatory signs to put around the dinghy dock to help alleviate any issues as you're referring to.
Whatever we can do to discourage that, because there's nothing.
And like I said, staff is there 7 days a week. So what we typically do is refer them to the Mound House. The Mound House property seems to be under, I guess, not really known. So I've been working with Jeff, the director, and getting pamphlets, brochures, and then trying to push the Mound House more usage for fishing and things like that.
Any update on the anchorage limitation area? Are we still looking into that, or?
That is something that we are pushing forward with, but that is going to be with Lee County cooperation. We just have to make the initial call and basically, with anything, get shovel ready for what we're doing before we do go out and pursue it. So we do have the answers for the questions that will be asked.
Should we be looking into that to suggest to town council whether we want to initiate that?
I would suggest everybody get familiar with exactly
Okay.
what it is.
And that's going to be, sorry, that's going to be Florida statute 327.
You got it, right?
Point 4108. And I think if you just go, where's that located? Just Florida stat, just
If you Google it.
Google Florida statutes.
Online Sunshine, one of those sites.
Yeah, and then you can just put in the stat FS number.
Just the Word document, it'll-
We probably should become familiar with that because we may be asked for
The whole
suggestions on that.
327 section, I would suggest getting yourselves familiar with that whole section in there.
I did forget to ask Jim, or before he left, so I'll ask you guys, you might know. There's been a lot of discussion going on with the shrimp channel being vacated from the Estero, from the, tell me, Chad. Yeah. And,
Yeah, I did hear that on the news. I don't know much about it beyond what I heard on the news, but there was some talk about the legislature
Yeah.
proposing to, so there's Aquatic Preserve, which has
Yeah.
a lot of additional protections as to what you can and can't do. So I think there was a push to rescind that designation in that area.
In that federal
to allow
channel, I
for,
think. Yeah.
Additional marina development.
Yes. So, and that's going on with Town Hall. So, but just if you see it on the news or something, maybe pay attention to that. It might come up at some point where they want our opinion on that. Thanks for making things happen, Austin.
My pleasure. I do enjoy it. So anything you guys need, please let me know.
Okay, we'll do, you guys all done with staff report? Any more staff? John, did you want to go again, or are you all set?
I think I'm all set for this point in time. I think next step is seeing what the PIO officer.
That'll be good.
has
Hopefully
to
she'll
say.
come next time, and you can tell Nicole if she wants to come, she doesn't have to wait through the whole meeting. We'll go ahead and push her up. You know, if she's going to come and be a guest, we'll push her up, let her talk first. Chris, anything?
I agree with John. I mean, I'm looking forward to meeting Nicole and seeing how we can assist her, John and Jim Hockett and I, if we can, help
Yeah.
with some other marketing possibilities, and also looking forward to hearing from Joe next time.
Ted, anything?
Move we adjourn.
Oh, wait, we're not done with the member report yet. It's coming up pretty quick. I'm looking for dates for the next thing here, too.
I think it's 3/20.
That is absolutely...
Third Wednesday.
But
Sorry,
good
but I
job.
have to
Okay. Bye, Ted.
Yeah, sorry.
Yep, looks like March 20th for our next meeting. Ed, did you have any,
I didn't have anything
Any item?
extra to add. I'll move to adjourn.
okay. Second?
Second.
All in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye, aye, aye.
Meeting adjourned.